got plenty to talk about outside of rugby league, but there's a fair bit coming up in rugby league. Obviously, mate, the Pacific Championships with the Kangaroos v Samoa. Since we last spoke, a few changes, and this was always going to happen. Some seen and some unforeseen. Josh Addo-Carr ruled out. Nathan Cleary, with his injury, ruled out. So that brings in Dylan Edwards and Nicho Hynes, who both had fairly strong claims to get in there in the first place, especially Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, it's great to see Dylan Edwards get a start. I was really surprised when he was left out of the squad. And I think, and like I said, we were talking about this last week, Matty, is Dylan Edwards, even if they were, come Origin time, they go for Tedesco and keep him at the back, I still think he's got to be in the squad. And I would play him. He has got the ability to play 14. And it wouldn't surprise me if Mal experiments with him playing in that 14 position at some point through the Pacific Championships, just because it's his natural game. And I know you got the defensive responsibilities as well, but, mate, his fitness and just the way he applies himself, that wouldn't be a drama.
What about players outside of those that were unlucky to miss out in the first place? I mean, Kalen Ponga, Reece Walsh. Well, I was on air when the team came through, when the 21-man squad came through, and we instantly started getting the text messages. It's a reflection, too, of the depth and a reflection of the kind of seasons that some individuals had that put their hand up, that made it damn hard for Mal to try and squeeze them all in.
Well, it reflects the depth of the fullback position, because there's just... I was sitting there thinking to myself last week, okay, so if he'll probably pick Tedesco, he'll pick Kalen, Dylan Edwards. I'm thinking, what's he going to do with all these fullbacks? As it turned out, he'd only picked one. He'd only picked Tedesco at the back. Yeah, that was very, very surprising. Yes, look, Matty, there's always blokes unlucky to miss out. It's just the depth we have in Australia, which... Again, I come back to the fact, and we have spoken about this a few times as well, which always confuses me. Why the hell then do individuals in the Australian Rugby League try to exert pressure on young Pacific Island players to play for Australia as opposed to Tonga or Samoa? It doesn't make sense for me. If you care about the international game, then you build up the Pacific Island teams and give them as much depth as possible. We have got so many to pick from. I mean, it's crazy, really, that we're trying to influence young guys to, abandon their first chosen or, their second tier team. Although I think Tonga's gone into the top tier, Samoa about to. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
So in the scheme of things then, how important do you reckon are these championships? I mean, we talk about trying to grow the game on the international level. That's always there, and that's important. We talk about, obviously, the region that you're just speaking about and the amount of players that are coming from those backgrounds, but we also talk about expansion too. So is this quite possibly one of the most important series of internationals that we've had in a long time outside of a World Cup?
Matty, I think so, because it's the growing influence of Pacifica. We talk about a side, like the Australian government are saying they want a side in Papua New Guinea, which they will help fund because they want a footprint there. So it's so important that we keep cultivating and getting momentum in the Pacific. And Matty, it's just a great opportunity for the game to pick up where we left off. As far as it's been the best season that I have ever seen. The level of interest in New Zealand has been extraordinary. So I look at this Kiwi side, the New Zealand side, and it's a beauty. There's questions around Brandon Smith's a big loss in the hooker position, but you got Manu, Chance, Jerome Hughes, Kieran Foran, Dylan Brown. The pack is a beauty, and so it's a great opportunity for international rugby league, just in this part of the world certainly to start to get more influence and more interest.
So expectations then on Mal Meninga's Kangaroos. They're always incredibly high. What does Mal need to do here?
Well, I suppose, first of all, the most important thing, Matty, is when you get an Australian side together and there's a number of new faces, is you've got to make them gel. As simple as that. Going away, Bob Fulton, who Mal Meninga, as far as how he coaches Australia, he learned a lot off Bob, and Bob was great to go away with on those tours because he understood what the tours were about, or that end of season was about. The players had gone through a tough campaign, so you just couldn't make it, bang them on the head just continually about football. You had to mix it up. We went away in the World Cup, and it was just so much, Matty, it was so much fun. We just had a ball in 95. It was a young touring team. we'd go and have a beer in the afternoon. We socialised together, but we trained hard. And Bozo was able to implement a simple game plan, which helped us all, helped the whole side and the individuals gel. And that's what it's about for Mal.
It's funny, I'm halfway through Webby's book, The Wolf for Your Feed. I did my best last night to try and get it to put me to sleep because I could not sleep, but it kept me up, mate, because it's a riveting book. It is a ripper book on Wayne Bennett, obviously, and I've just gone through a lot of the stuff between Mal Meninga and Wayne Bennett and their connection, their history, and everything about it. And it got me thinking just then, while we were talking about this, about Mal's coaching philosophies. I mean, as soon as you walk into a dressing room, I'm assuming, mate, and you're the player here, so you tell me, you see Mal Meninga and you go, I'm playing for you. Whatever you want me to do, Mal, I'm going to do what you did in your career. Is that the biggest selling point for Mal Meninga? What else is there that you see from the coaching ranks?
Oh, look, Mal has got great presence to start with, and that's an essential thing. When you bring elite players all together and differing personalities, the bloke at the top's got to have great presence. He's got to have sway. And although you're dealing with the top tier of players and a number of captains in that side, you're still got to be able to carry a big stick. Sometimes guys just step outside the boundaries or want to go in a different direction, how they want to play. And that's part of being able to pull them all together. But, yeah, I don't know the intricacies of how Mal coaches. Mal, to me, seems like he'd be a man manager. He'd be a guy who had influence on the individual rather than being an absolutely brilliant tactician, although he'd be sound in that area. But he's been known in those great Queensland sides. A strength of a coach, Matty, at times, isn't someone who actually dictates all the time to the players. Sometimes the strength of a coach is have that strength of personality or the confidence within yourself to pass over to the players and say, come on, you tell me, how should we play this? That's what I think Mal will be very much about.
Which leads us to the New South Wales job, where they're at with this one. I mean, it's almost every day, every different day, there's a new name coming up, but so many of the usual suspects. I saw in the paper the other day you were quoted saying, nah, I've got too many jobs, and we've had that discussion plenty of times. We're having more people, it seems, say, no, I can't do it, than those who are putting up their hand. What's your take on where the Blues are at?
Oh, well, I think it's probably symbolic, Matty, of where we're at the moment, the New South Wales Rugby League and the structure of it. The fact that you've got people taking one step back, more people taking a step back than people taking a step forward. I don't know what exactly that is, whether what Freddie has been through in the last 3 or 4 months, all the uncertainty has spooked potential coaches and they don't quite trust the setup. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, look, there's the Bellamy thing, but, Bellamy's into his last year in coaching. I can't see Belly putting his hand up, certainly this year. I mean, look, if they don't want to go with a coach who has got club affiliations, and I think I would have no problem, them appointing a coach who's got a club affiliation, because I think you need to be coach fit. You've got to be ready to make those tough decisions, those scenarios on the run, have the strength of personality to be able to, being used to ringing players, Matty, even, and saying, hey, listen, I've liked what you're about, but, apologies, I'm not going to pick you in the side. Head coaches are used to doing that. They're seasoned at doing it. And for that reason, I think Michael Maguire would be a great pick. Now, someone would say, well, at the moment, Michael Maguire, though, isn't being the head coach at the club. Like, he's an assistant to Ricky Stewart, but he's looking after New Zealand. And the difference with Madge, Matty, is even when he is not coaching, he's coaching. He's just always working on his principles and how he wants to go about work and how he wants to put a side together, etc., etc. As soon as this New South Wales job came up, I've got no doubt that Madge would be starting to scribble notes down just in case he got it. I mean, he's doing a great job at New Zealand. I don't think New Zealand Rugby League would necessarily be happy about this, and Madge's been constantly spoken about, but it's important to say that Madge actually hasn't put his hand forward and said, listen, I want to do it. His focus is on New Zealand, but I really think he would do a great job.
So he's currently working with Ricky, as you mentioned, with New Zealand as well, obviously, but currently working with Ricky. Laurie Daly and Madge are mates. Laurie Daly and Ricky are obviously mates as well and have a very good history. It's sort of if you put them all down there, and if you went towards Michael Maguire, I was listening to Loz when all this popped up, and he just said, "Look, it's not my time. My time's been," and that's not saying that he wouldn't do it if he was asked, because he also said that I'll do whatever they want me to do if I'm asked. But if you look at those three in particular, you could form a heck of a dream team. What do you reckon works best? Do you reckon where you have one coach and one coach only who then selects, say, assistants and helpers and advisors and all that? Or do we just pile all in and go a bit of a dream team?
No, you got to pick a head coach to start with. You look at Billy. Billy was appointed coach of Queensland. From then, Billy's gone and assembled his coaching team. With Cameron and Cameron, as we've seen before, with Jonathan Thurston and those guys. Now, they have a presence in the camp, but Billy's the one doing all the video work. He's sitting there making the announcement. He's the one that's dealing with the players. He's the one that's telling players they're in or breaking the bad news. And he's the bloke that's putting together the game plan. So it's really important you have a figurehead. If you throw everyone in together, Matty, I can understand what you're saying, but you can end up with a mishmash of ideas and players not exactly knowing who's in charge.